Welcome to the Prevail Over Cancer Podcast, where we take a metabolic approach to help guide you on preventing, prevailing, and striving over cancer.
We are live on the Prevail Over Cancer podcast. I'm Jeff Lopes, super excited once again to have the incredible Keith Bishop with us as my co-host. This week's topic is something that I've always heard about, always looked into prior to being diagnosed with cancer, never took it truly seriously.
Right.
And as simple as washing your fruits and vegetables.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's something, the more you look into, the more studies come out of the amount of pesticides and preservatives and stuff that are thrown on and sprayed on our fruits and vegetables so they last that travel time. They last the truck travel, the airline travel to get to our grocery stores and look fresh and look healthy. Right. And in the end of the day, we're getting these things and they're full of so much pesticides and chemicals on them. Mm-hmm. And it's something where when it comes to washing, I've taken it to, I would say, the next level, but I'm sure there's even more levels to get to. And we'll talk about all that today. When did you start really focusing on washing your fruits and vegetables? Let's talk about that, your aspect and your experience. And then we'll talk about what are the best options and all that stuff.
Well, to be honest, I'm kind of like the rest of the people. I didn't do much, washing vegetables, I really didn't. And until about probably 5 years ago, and when I really started doing a lot more cancer consultations and setting up protocols, and people were asking me about that. Okay, yeah, I guess I better, kind of check it out. I, assumed things were okay. I mean, matter of fact, one of my first jobs was working in a grocery store in the produce department. And so when I was 17 years old, and so I've always been that. As a kid, we grew vegetables and fruit, and so I've always been doing those kind of things. But once I started reading it and paying attention to it, I guess it's more like, I take that back, it's 10 years ago. So I used to live way out in the country, close to a very large dairy farm. I mean, very extensive. And they're out there spraying chemicals. They grow these crops, 3 different crops every year out of these pastures. And with the foods from those crops is what they feed the cows. And so it's like, well, I don't want to be outside when they're spraying those, that plane is flying by. I live to the north of that pasture, half a mile from that pasture, and there's this plane out there spraying chemicals. I go inside. And so that was actually, I guess, 15, time goes by so fast. Am I that old? 15 years ago. Gosh, here we go. So 15 years ago, sitting on my front porch and looking, seeing this plane. Yeah, that yellow plane. Boy, gosh, he does a good job at that. How he goes underneath that power line, and that spray is actually kind of coming this way.
The wind, yeah.
The wind, exactly. And so I started kind of reading that and realizing, so there are a lot of chemicals, on our fruits and vegetables. And so, okay, I'll make a switch to organic, and that's going to be healthier. And although, as a matter of fact, I was in my garden there, I was growing natural organic things. And here I'm getting this blowover from this dairy farm. And so I know that's not good. No wonder we don't have as many bees, as honeybees out here. And so I guess it was more like 15 years ago. I started reading that and washing and doing basic things. And so I do that with both, whether it be organic or with traditionally grown.
Yeah.
And organic is definitely going to be a better option. But did you know that actually organic, they still allow some pesticides and things to be used on them?
Yeah.
So it's like,
what I read was, and tell me if I'm wrong with this, with organic, they stop most, if not all, the pesticides being sprayed on the fruit or on the tree, but it doesn't stop the pesticides that are put into the ground, into the earth, into the soils. So you're still growing it from from the inside out in a way.
Right.
So
Exactly.
it's crazy that the amount of fertilizers and stuff that are put into that soil to help grow that plant that are still growing into that plant. So
Mhm.
it's one of those things where, and exactly what you said, it's the wind blow off. So you just get a visualization of, you have a normal farm, they're spraying all their crops. You got an organic
Right.
farm, one or two farms over. Windy day, that thing is still blowing right over on all those fruits and vegetables. So
Exactly.
first thing we got to talk about is, whether you buy organic or not, you still need to go through the washing process.
Exactly. Yeah. So organic is, I try to do that most of the time. Definitely. We try
Yeah.
to, we are blessed with more and more organic sources,
Yeah.
with that. And there's organic certifications, different organizations and states, have, and countries have different, type guidelines on that. So yes, number one, try to get organic whenever you can. Number two, though, we need to be washing those, and regular ones at this. We need to be washing that. We got to try to wash that off. And there's no way we can. And I'm not obsessed about it. I don't think anybody should be obsessed about it. I've had a few people with some of my posts talking about this, and they're peeling everything, trying to get, just scraping that off. Well, the peeling of fruits and vegetables is extremely important. Those peels have maybe many times more nutrients in it than the flesh of the fruit or vegetable.
I was about to
So
say that.
so we really need those things, and so I don't want people to become obsessed about it. We just need to do the best that we can, and by buying organic, we're actually supporting a newer, better type of a food production, type thing, and it's growing very slowly, but definitely it's growing as people learn, and companies are making changes. But traditional, we can't rely on the government to protect us.
No.
Have a regulation. Okay, this particular chemical is no longer allowed, and so now the chemists, that make these chemicals say, okay, we'll just change this chemical structure a little bit. Now we got a different chemical, and the government agencies don't know about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another 10, 15 years, of that chemical being used that we don't know the impact. And it hasn't been studied. Matter of fact, there's some chemicals out there. Once again, we have no idea. Last night, I drove through the country and literally saw a section of land, over 600 acres that had been sprayed with something, an herbicide, to kill all the plants. And now they're going to go back and they're going to plant some plants in that chemical. And so,
I was going to say, yeah, that residue and just the Mother Nature's natural production of everything just being recycled into that soil.
Right, exactly. Yes. Not counting the bees transferring it, from pollen to pollen. And matter of fact, even genetically modified plants, there's actually, some of that genetically modified pollen is getting into regular plants, and there's lawsuits about that. And lawsuits actually about genetically modified, groups complaining about the traditional plants being mixed in with theirs. So it's just a mess. So we have to do the best we can, and make those changes. And even so, all the medical journals even are just studying fruits and vegetables, how important they are, and they're not looking at organic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so we don't want to avoid fruits and vegetables. We don't want to become obsessed about cleaning it and peeling it and scraping it, or bruising or damaging it, trying to get it clean. Because they're still good for us. We can just make better choices and bring some of those chemicals down in our body.
One thing I saw in your post, and I had read before, I think if I'm correct, you said just washing it in water could take 9 out of the 12 major pesticides. Is that correct?
Correct. Exactly.
So simple thing like that, right? And it's cold water. Get a big bowl, get your sink, fill it with cold water, let it sit in there for a bit, and just almost hose it down. You're automatically going to take probably about 80 to 85% of those pesticides off there automatically like that.
Exactly. Yeah. So matter of fact, you can kind of, the second step would be, you can start off with cold water, And so chemicals are soluble
Yeah.
in different types of things. And so cold water, once again, just simple cold water, is number one, just rinse that real good, shake it off, drain it out. And then the second step is actually hot water will dissolve a few more of those chemicals
Interesting.
and help to get rid of those.
Interesting.
And so hot water, and it doesn't have to be extremely hot. We don't want to cook
No, of course, yeah.
vegetables and fruits, but hot water is going to be another step. So really, it's pretty easy to remove most of those chemicals with just very simple, rinsing, and that's it. We can go further steps. As a matter of fact, there are many different types of things. There are companies that have special sprays and chemicals, and matter of fact, I was going through the medical journals, and they're actually studying those, and there's medical studies trying to come up with what are called surfactants, which are kind of like soaps to dissolve those. But then again, what are those chemicals? And they're not, so we have to be careful about that. So sometimes the KISS principle, keep it simple, is, very important and less expensive and actually very effective.
Yeah, I do two things, and we'll dive into that now, and you can give your understanding of them. I get a bowl, simple. I get a bowl. I throw in my fruits and vegetables. I'll mix them in whatever I'm going to have for the day. And I just sprinkle them with baking powder, baking soda. I explain part of the baking soda. I make sure it's aluminum-free baking soda I'm using. So I sprinkle it with baking soda, fill it with cold water, and then I add some apple cider vinegar. And you'll see the sizzle. I move it around. I let it sit in there for five minutes. And then I drain the water, and then I get cold water, and I'll just flush it 2, 3, 4 times. And that's what I do, and it's working for me. It takes 5 minutes, 5, 6 minutes, and just even the psychological aspect, I feel like they're cleaner, right? So I'm getting the rinse of the water, add a little, like I said, a little baking soda, a little apple cider vinegar. Some people even use white vinegar, which is very cost efficient as well.
Right.
So that is what I do. One that you had just mentioned that works very well that I hadn't even heard of in one of your posts was rice vinegar. Let's talk about that and what are you learning about that?
So rice vinegar, matter of fact, vinegar is made from fermenting something, whether it be apple cider vinegar. It can be made synthetically, more like a white vinegar. I'm not sure where they get that from, but it can be made synthetically. What's called acetic acid. So, matter of fact, all of these vinegars have some acetic acid in them, and then other chemicals. And so, more recently, a study showed that probably the best vinegar source for dissolving the chemicals. So, in chemistry, so when I was in pharmacy school, we would make drugs, and dissolve drugs and change drugs with, adding an acid or adding a base. So acid would be vinegar. Okay. A base would be sodium bicarb, which is baking soda. Okay. And so by adding these chemicals, you create new chemicals or can help wash stuff out. So that's the purpose of the acetic acid. In this case, the rice seems to have something about it in that rice chemical. They don't know for sure what it is yet, but they also found that actually even rinsing, actually using what's called rice water. Of course, we'd want to be more organic, and we want fewer chemicals, but because there's a lot of chemicals used in rice production too. But they found actually rinsing it, that even just had some effect. But the rice vinegar, that fermentation and the acetic acid, work better than all other sources of vinegars.
Interesting.
The problem is that it's very expensive because it's not a common thing, and the price was like, I've seen the best price is like $25 for a gallon.
Oh wow, yeah.
And so very expensive. I'm not going to be doing. Matter of fact, I don't even know if I haven't seen it at the health food stores. Matter of fact, if they're probably just like a small bottle anyway. There, you can get larger bottles. If a person can't afford to do that, that's great. I'm not going there yet. It's just not readily available.
So what do you do yourself? Like I said, I just say what I do. What do you do for your washing purposes?
So rinsing. So my wife, I have to admit, she blesses me with that. She's the primary one that takes care of that. when we go to the store, she doesn't like going to the store with me because I'm going to be reading all the labels. And so, I'm going to be at the store for an hour or two. So sometimes she'll sit in my truck or her van and just kind of wait. So I'll do the shopping, but she does bless me. So she'll rinse it with water and then typically do a vinegar. And so the baking soda, she hasn't been doing, but actually with the research I'm giving her, she's definitely, going to be doing more about that. So the vinegar is something that just, traditionally, I say traditionally, or more like, our friends, have been doing vinegar.
Yeah.
Rinses, with that. So you got the water, you got the vinegar as an option and rinsing those off. And then baking soda is another. So, but chemicals can be broken down by acids or bases.
Where's your mindset when it comes to baking soda? Like I said, I have to go out of my way to try to find one that's aluminum free because most of the ones on the market do have aluminum in them. Is that something to stay away from, or the basic baking soda, the Hammer one, whatever the brand is, the basic one you find at every grocery store, is that fine to use, or should we actually go the route of that extra little level of finding aluminum free ones?
Well, and so, baking soda, is okay. That's sodium bicarbonate
Baking. Yeah. Sorry. Go.
Baking soda. And then there's baking powder, which actually is aluminum based.
Okay.
And so baking powder often is, I think of traditionally as a metal can, and they're trying to help keep the moisture out of it better. And then baking soda, which is sodium bicarbonate, I'm definitely fine with that. Okay. And I don't think we could go any extra, type, issues with that. Baking powder, we have to be careful about. Baking soda is okay.
Okay. I see. I didn't even think there was a difference between them, so I thought it was just the naming of them. There is.
There is a difference, in that, and they're used differently in food production. So now the baking powder. Make sure I'm getting it right now. So the baking soda, okay. Yeah. Baking soda, is alkaline, and so that works in a different way on different chemicals, and then the acetic acid from different vinegars works in a different way to get different chemicals. So, a 3-step, cleaning process is going to be the water, and then rinsing that, and then either doing a baking soda soak. And I have to admit, I personally would think about kind of doing the baking soda type thing. Let that soak not very long, not very long, but soak a little bit and then rinse that off. And then I would be, the third and final step, I think, would be like a vinegar type rinse.
So you wouldn't recommend doing it all at one shot?
I'd rather divide that up. And so because I want the alkaline chemicals to be at a high dose to dissolve the chemicals, rinse that off, and then move it into more of an acidic type situation to rinse those different chemicals off. So when you combine baking soda, and acetic acid, you mentioned the bubbling effect.
Yeah.
It actually means they're both being neutralized. And so
interesting.
So therefore, in my thought process and my pharmaceutical chemical, matter of fact, I have more chemistry training than almost anybody. I have 6 years of chemistry, in college. And so, and I'm thinking I want that separate effect. And I don't want to neutralize both of them. I want the alkaline and I want the acid to help clean that.
Interesting. Okay, that I'll make a change on that. I never understood that. I thought in my mind the bubbling effect is like, wow, it's working better. It wasn't neutralizing. Okay, that's interesting. You're saying that. It's good information. Let's talk about. I just printed out the new list, and these are the fruits and vegetables that have the highest amount found pesticides in North America. It's the Dirty Dozen 2024 list. Number 1 is strawberries. Number 2 is spinach. Number 3 is kale and collard greens or mustard greens.
Yeah, those leafies.
Yeah, green leafies. Number 4, grapes. Number 5, peaches. Number 6 is pears. Number 7, nectarines. Number 8, apples. Number 9, blueberries. No, bell peppers. Number 9, bell peppers. Number 10, cherries. Number 11, blueberries. Number 12, green beans. And as crazy as blueberries were never on the list, but the popularity of them and the popularity of the benefits of blueberries and the health push
Right.
towards them, they're producing more. And when you want to produce something on a higher level, they have to protect it. And that's where the pesticides come along. So that is your top 12 dirty dozen list.
Wow.
It's pretty crazy because, I mean, these are pretty much everything I eat.
I know.
Strawberries is the one I actually stay away from. I don't know why. I've always, since my cancer journey began and I started reading about the dirty dozen list, I can't, for some reason, strawberries is the one fruit locally I can't find organic. I can never find, I could find blueberries, I could find raspberries, and I'm actually growing them in my garden now. I can never find strawberries that are organic in the store. Not even in our health food store
Right.
locally doesn't ever never have them. Maybe it's a seasonal thing here, but I never seem to find them.
Yes, they are a very seasonal, like an early spring type crop,
Yeah.
and they're not stored very well. So organic, of course, is a preference, but it may have to be frozen. You know, therefore, organic frozen would be the other option. So, but yes, they are hard to find, and more difficult than most things to find. So, matter of fact, actually, the green beans, they have that low on the list, but there's actually a special concern about green beans. Often they come up from Mexico, and they actually have a chemical that's very difficult to get rid of. On some of them.
What's the name of that chemical? Do you know?
Oh, I don't know the name on it, so
Okay.
I just but they have a chemical that's very difficult to wash off, and so therefore, once again, I'm trying to go organic as much as possible just to limit that exposure.
And it's crazy when you look at this list. I mean,
Yeah, those are all the healthy things.
yeah, it's crazy,
Yeah,
crazy, and
we got
it's
to wash.
because of that. You
Yeah, we
have to
got
wash them, and
to.
you got to take care of them like that. So, and obviously, as best as possible, if you could financially afford to do it, you're going to buy it organic, and then
If you
you're
can,
still going to go through the washing process,
correct.
which is crazy that we have to have that mindset. It
Right.
boggles my mind that when you think about it, like you're going that route where it's like I'm spending the extra money to buy organic and I still have to go through the process of being afraid of what is on it.
Yes, well, and I try not to be obsessed about it,
Yeah, you
but
can't.
I just, still I like the idea about, I mean, getting stuff at the grocery store. How many people handled that apple before I picked it up?
Yeah.
So I just
You
want.
mentioned that too. That's taking it to the next level. That's taking it to the next level.
I'm not a germaphobe at all. Matter of fact, I view things as like, I like to challenge my immune system. I work in the public, and I don't mind that at all. But then again, just thinking about, I've been in the grocery store, I've worked in the grocery store before. Just so many people handling things, and there's actually this washing thing is very important because we also have the E. coli issue, on fruits and vegetables. So, I mean, just that alone, which comes from people not washing their hands while they're producing and picking and cleaning the produce for us. We've got to do our diligence. We do need to be washing those fruits and vegetables just for that reason alone.
There is my main company. We used to do Camor, where we produce and manufacture boxing martial art equipment. We used to do our own pickups at the terminal, the airport terminal from our imports overseas. And in that area, there would be it was a food terminal as well. So all the imports would come there, and you would literally see skids of bananas, skids of apples imported, and half of them around will be all rotted, and people will be just throwing things. It was like visually seeing this, and then when they get to the grocery store and they clean them and put them all pretty and pile them all pretty, I would see that and I'd be like, oh my God, this is gross. And those will be moved to the food terminals where all the major grocery stores will go pick them up. So it's, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that as a consumer, you don't see the behind the scenes.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, that's not counting the chemicals that they spray on them to keep them from ripening. And then they have to spray different chemicals on them for them to start ripening. And so there
is also and I should have done my research on this prior to our podcast day, but there is a new chemical that they're trying to introduce to preserve food more now. And it's Bill, I think it was Bill Gates or something that's coming up with it.
Yes.
What is that? What do you have any knowledge on that?
Yes. So that's called appeal, I think. And
Yes, that's it.
maybe APEEL. I think maybe
Yeah.
I'm not sure in the spelling on that, but yeah, it's supposed to be actually it's a coating that they put on food,
Yes.
type of thing. So and to help keep insects and mold and mildew and bacteria from being able to attach to that fruit. And so I have to admit, I'll have to do some research on it. It's a chemical. It's another chemical, and
That's the easiest way to break it down. It's another chemical that
right,
there's not enough studies or long-term effects on what we did.
right,
I mean, growing up, we talk about this. When we talk about chemicals, growing up, I thought I was being healthy. I was into my body, into working out. I'm 47 now. When I was 19, 20, 21, 22, everything we used to do was sweeteners, little green,
yeah,
little pink packs, little yellow packs. It was just get my coffee, put a sweetener in, cooking,
uh-huh,
put a sweetener in, making a shake, put it, and I sometimes you'd be having 7, 8, 10 of these packs a day because you thought it was a healthy option. And now
right,
years later, there's more and more studies coming out of sweeteners and the effect and the connection towards certain cancers. So the long-term effect of anything that's artificial
right.
is scary, scary, scary stuff, especially with the increase of, I mean, the increase of cancer rate is skyrocketing since
Mhm.
2019. And whether that's another podcast altogether, but whether we can relate it to a vaccine, whether we relate it to the sedentary and unhealthy lifestyle people did during the COVID of staying at home and eating junk food and not moving.
Right.
There's so many factors, but it's just the bare fact that that number is gone up over 50% in young adults under 50. It's
Right.
crazy, 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 crazy stats out there, right? So we as a society have to take every precaution, and knowing our dirty dozen list and knowing about and researching about pesticides and knowing how to wash our fruits and vegetables is so they're at the end of the day, it might be a very, very small amount to preventing cancer, but every
Yes.
little thing counts. And we talk about that all the time, right?
Exactly. Every little step, every little change, has an additive effect, maybe even synergistic effect.
Mm-hmm.
So you take your supplements and you eat right, keep your blood glucose under control, wash off the chemicals, try to limit the chemicals as much as possible. And each thing has a great benefit at reducing our risk of cancer or even changing that environment inside our body. So we like you've done a great job. Once you were diagnosed with cancer, you started studying, making those changes, changing your internal environment so that it's more difficult for cancer to take hold or to grow. We got to make a change. We can't keep doing the same thing all the time and expect different results.
Exactly. Exactly. So, I mean, this, like I said, this is a very important topic, but it's one little step towards the prevention
Right.
and prevailing over cancer. So
Mhm.
wash your fruits and vegetables.
Right.
If you don't want to go that route of adding, whether it's a vinegar, whether you're using white vinegar or an apple cider vinegar, now I will be doing what you said, separating them.
I think it's a little better.
Your baking soda, just like Keith was saying, just washing them in water, putting them in a bowl of water and hosing them down with cold water and now warm water. You're going to be taking a good amount of those pesticides aside. It takes you a couple, maybe max a minute, minute and a half, and you're just one step closer to helping yourself, right?
Exactly. Yourself and family.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sharing that information. We have to train our families and our friends and set an example and share this information, share this podcast with them so that they'll see and learn. Oh, here's some more science. This is why we need to be doing that. So my wife, when I was preparing these posts, she's learning with this process too, just like the rest of us. And,
Yeah.
and so she goes, oh, okay, that makes sense,
Yeah.
and I'll make that other little change.
You know what's crazy? You said our younger generation there, and I almost find it's our older generation that don't want to make the changes. They've done the same thing for so many years. I look at my mom, and I'm like, and I'll say, you should try this, and she's like, oh, I'm fine. I'm in my 70s. I'm healthy. I'm fine. They don't want to make the changes because it's like I'll go to my mom's house, and I'll be like, did you wash all your food? She goes, yeah, I wash it. And it's like old school mindset is washing is just turning on the thing. You're done. Like it's just like rinsing it 2 seconds and go and eat it and eat it. Yeah, rinse it and eat it. And that's old school, and that's their mindset, right? And it's like it's worked for me all these years, and I'm healthy. So it's also changing the generation before us and after us. It's just educating as many people as you possibly can to make better choices. You're giving them the option and the education, so they have to make the better choices.
Exactly. So if we don't know, we can't make that change.
Yeah, 100%.
And remember, I run into that with my cancer consultations, and there's a few young and definitely some older, individuals that, I mean, they don't want to make very many changes.
Yeah.
And so, so that's all we can do is provide that information, here's the information behind it, and encourage them and try to set up the perfect situation for that. Like make sure that the baking soda is there, make sure the vinegar is there, make sure everything's there. And so it's ready to go. It's got to be easy too, so.
Yeah, that's a great little thing to say. I mean, it's with people, and we started off this conversation before we went on live is how busy our lifestyles are.
Oh yes, gosh.
So making things as easy as possible. So I mean, like whether you're prepping your food on a Sunday for the rest of the week, your lunches, whether you're getting your vegetables, take maybe when you do your groceries on a Friday or a Thursday or a Saturday, maybe take one day a week where it's like, I'm going to wash everything. I'm going to prep everything, whether you put in containers and it's ready to go for the week. It's just scheduling in your schedule. If you do have a busy life, you have children, your work, other obligations, finding time where you spend an hour and just here, I'm going to hammer out the whole week and it's done with. I've got to the point where even my vitamins, I used to just every morning grab my vitamins. Now I take like 17 pills a day. I literally every week, every Sunday, I have it all separated and I prep my week of vitamins. So every morning I get up, boom, throw in my lunch pail. I'm good to go. I don't have to think about it. And I think that and if I had to every morning now go and separate 17 different pills, I'd be probably missing half the time. So preparation, and that goes to washing your foods, is setting a time aside, making it easy where you have everything ready there. You don't have to think about it. Just do it. Right. It's done. And we're good to go for a few days. And that way it'll just help ease off that stress of just another thing added to my plate.
Yes, exactly. And so set that aside is, while you have everything set out, just go ahead and take care of it all at once.
Yeah.
Rather than, having to get that out and get that baking soda again, get that vinegar out again. But, take advantage of that, set out a drying area, rinse it off and let it dry and get that out of the way. It's a time saver.
100%.
Most of us, men and women, I mean, we're working hard and putting a lot of hours. It needs to be simple. The KISS. Keep it simple.
Yeah. Simple. Yeah. Keep it simple. What is it? Keep it simple, stupid. Yeah, that's it.
Oh, well, I didn't want to say stupid.
No, go. I think that's okay. We can say that. We can say that. I saw you miss that word before too. I'm like, that's just
my face turned red. I don't like to say stupid. I don't want to say y'all aren't stupid, but I like to say keep it simple, silly, or whatever. But
yeah. This is awesome, Keith. Another episode in the bag. This is episode number 10. So, I mean, we finally made it to number 10. As we say, we talked about this. It feels like we've been doing these podcasts for a while because we had them so separated the first couple of episodes and then we released them all at once. But we are going to be pushing these out every week and just filling as much knowledge as we can with everybody. So once again, I appreciate everything you do. Appreciate all your knowledge. And until next week, thank you, buddy.
Okay. Thank you. See you later.